Coming up on episode 59 of Create If Writing, we're talking all about dealing with online critics.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello and welcome to Create If Writing. I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant, and this is the podcast for you. If you're a writer, blogger, creative entrepreneur, or just somebody that wants to build an online platform without being smarmy, of course. That's a caveat. No smarm here. And today's episode, I'm really excited to share with you an interview that I did. It was actually one of my first interviews for the podcast, and it was with Cami Hoysa from Zoetica Media and from Houston Social Media Breakfast and Sevilla Nation. She's kind of a lot of places, and she has been blogging probably longer than any of you. And she doesn't have the blog that she started with, and that's actually kind of part of the story, is that when she first started out, the world was a really different place. But one thing that has not changed is the presence of online critics, and she really had a kind of extreme experience where one particular person basically followed her around for 2 years and created massive problems for her online with her blogging and her business. So she has a lot of information to share. She is phenomenal, and I'm really excited to share the interview. Now, because it's one of my first ones, the sound quality is really not up to snuff, so you'll just have to bear with that. It's one of the repurposed Blogger to Business podcasts after that podcast went away, so it's sponsored by Holly Homer. But I would love to have you head over to hollyhomer.com, where you can find out really genius, detailed information like how to leave comments on a Facebook video before it's live, or how to use multi-camera setups for Facebook Live. Okay, she's kind of like the guru of Facebook Live. And this podcast will come out on the 22nd of August, supposedly, and we'll see if Facebook is actually rolling out what they have said they were going to roll out to certain pages and professional people, which is the ability to record 2 people at the same time from different places on Facebook Live. This is a new functionality, and I think it's going to roll out slowly, but supposedly on the 22nd, they're going to be rolling it out to some big people, and Holly might be one of those people. So head over to hollyhomer.com, and you can find her Facebook page. Look for Holly Homer. This is the week of August 22nd, and this is a week where you can still access the free trainings from Nick Stevenson as he launches his Your First 10K Readers course, and I'm an affiliate for that program, so I would love for you to get your hands on the free stuff and also check out his course. You can find all of the information and also my special bonus if you go to createifwriting.com/Nick. And I'll tell you more about that on the flip side, but I'm going to go ahead and get right into the interview with Cami. Welcome. Today we are talking to Cami Hoysa. Hey, Cami.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, great.
Excellent. Well, Cami, I don't even know where to get started with your bio because you have so many things that you do, but Cami is the founder of Zoetica Media, and you have been involved in social media and PR as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, public relations. I have been doing public relations for over 20 years, and I've been doing social media kind of work since 2005, so 10 years.
And that's a long time, like in these digital years, that's a long time, I think. And you've also been blogging for like as long, right? Like 10 years about?
Yeah, 10 years. Uh-huh.
Okay. So that makes you sort of like, even though you're a very young person, you are like a grandmother of blogging in some ways, I feel like. Is that insulting to say?
No, I'll take it. It's good.
Well, there's so many people I feel like that started blogs, recently, and that was just such a different landscape back then, and not as many people were on there or have that experience. So you've seen quite a world of change, and you have had a lot of experience dealing with brands and dealing with bloggers over the years and seen a lot of changes. But today I wanted to talk about the sort of dark side of being a public person online. And that is when you come under fire from, I don't know how we want to call it, haters, critics, and you've had some experience with that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, can you tell me how you got started in social media and blogging and the whole online world that you're in today?
Sure. So back in 2005, I just had my first child, and I was working from home in my consultancy by then. I'd started my first business, which was called My PR Pro, in 2002 when I moved to Texas from Washington, D.C., where I had previously served as the director of communications for a trade association. So I'd done that, and I'd been a national spokesperson for them and had done all kinds of media and that kind of PR world stuff. And when I moved to Texas, I started my business because I had always wanted to have my own business. And I did know that I wanted to have children, so I wanted to be able to own my own time. And so I started My PR Pro in 2002. And it was a really exciting time. Already there were people that were writing online. The Drudge Report was sort of big back then. And so I already kind of had some experience kind of understanding what these online, tools could do. I never thought of myself as a blogger. Back then, I think I thought of bloggers as people that talked about themselves and their families, life, and that kind of thing, and personal stories. And I didn't feel at all comfortable talking about my personal life online. So, but then I started to find these blogs out there that were people that were talking about business and PR and social media, this new thing. And actually, we didn't even call it social media back then. We just called it blogging. In fact, during that time frame when I started blogging, that there was a huge debate over whether social media would be what it was called. So it was a very exciting time, very formative. Twitter was not even born yet. That was born in 2006, end of 2006, early 2007. People were really flocking to it from my community. So it was a very interesting, formative time. And I remember with clarity when I decided I would start my blog. And I thought, well, I'll just try and see what it's like. And, I didn't never think it would go anywhere or do anything. And I still remember that first blog post being just really afraid to hit publish because I was like, as I'd worked in PR for so many years, we had learned how to help in the background. I mean, being the story or having our name on something was actually a sign of being a bad PR person back then. Like if people knew that you were the one who did it.
So I can imagine this being sort of the opposite of all your training and the other work that you had done is to post a blog and have your name on there.
So I was scared to death. I'm like, this is my opinion. Here it goes. Boom. So it went out. And I was really fortunate to find that there was some people out there that wanted to hear what I had to say. And how I decided to kind of do it was as I learned, I put it on the blog. So anything I learned, I teach it to the people that were willing to read it. So that's sort of how it started. It started as me just learning. And I feel like that first couple of years, I felt like I was in graduate school, again, and just really learning a whole new universe of things. And it was very exciting. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah. And just so different. I mean, even thinking back to that time, everybody take a moment right now as you're listening and think about what were you doing online in 2005, 2006? It was just such a different world and so much has changed. I feel like so quickly, and who knows where we'll be 5 years from now, but we're not going back for sure. It's
going to be holograms.
I don't know. I don't even like to imagine. I mean, I want to stay on top of things, but it kind of scares me to think about like what possibly could happen next. I'm not sure, but it definitely was a different world. And I think I started blogging around that time, but it was the same thing. Like I felt like it was very presumptuous of people to put their life, like, why would I want to read about your life online? Why would you do that? I felt like it was so, you're making this assumption that all these strangers wanted to know what you were thinking. I just thought that was very odd. And now it's very odd if you don't put those thoughts online. If people don't know what you're eating for lunch, it's like, what have you been doing all day? I don't know, because you haven't put it online. So very different times. But one thing I feel like that existed then, but more so now and has been sort of amplified by the presence everywhere of social media is this sort of online bullying. I'm not sure if that's the right word, although that does happen as well. But the online critics and the people that jump onto these comment sections. I mean, you can't even read a news article without seeing people diving into some horrible debate in the comment section. And that's just where we are today. I don't know how different that was then. I feel like there was less of that then. Maybe people were online less, but you have had kind of some extreme situations happen with you. So would you mind telling us a little bit about some of the conflict you have been a part of online?
So I really do believe in just kind of bringing this back to more of an anthropology kind of thing, that you're right, that we used to realize, I think as a collective, that even though we had opinions, we kept them to ourselves, that we didn't go out into the public stage, like we didn't stand on the courthouse steps and scream about our feelings about things. Just not what we did. And not just there, but in general, you know, that has become a real big thing. And sort of like when you're in traffic and you scream at the car next to you and you feel fine with calling them names or whatever, I think that's the same thing that's happened in social media. You know, people feel disconnected from the people that they're talking to. Certainly you can feel very connected with people online, don't get me wrong, but in general, you know, it's pretty easy to leave a really, really hateful and mean comment to somebody who you don't know and you don't even think of as a person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you see that all the time. Again, I feel like you can't, certain blogs are immune to it depending on what they're writing about. But any news story, I mean, even sort of these innocuous news stories, there are people fighting in the comments about things that aren't even related sometimes, but it's just very pervasive. So you had an experience where you wrote something on your blog that you took a lot of heat for. So let me know.
Well, I've done that. That's happened more than once.
Oh, okay.
But, the first time that really happened to me was kind of back in the same time frame. There were some people out there that were they were using some examples that I thought I didn't agree with. Okay. So here we go again. I feel like I can put my opinion out there now. I'm very comfortable with it at this point. Cause I mean, by that point, I'd probably been blogging a couple of years. I had a pretty good number of people that I talked with on a regular basis. I felt like I was part of a community, and somebody came into this community and disrupted it. You can call them a troll or whatever you want to call, a hater, whatever. But this person really came in saying, you know, that they disagreed with what we were saying and how we were saying it, and was very difficult to deal with. Would show up in comments and talk about us in disparaging ways. And I say us because there were more than just one person that this person was targeting. I was one of many. And I wasn't at first at all, actually, but then I spoke up and I thought that the thing that this person was doing, which was a parody blog, or website, and I thought that the website was offensive. And so I told people that I thought it was offensive.
Yeah.
And because of that, I became one of the targets of this particular online bully.
And so what were some of the effects of coming sort of in the crosshairs of someone else who had their own space online? What was that experience like for you?
It was really demoralizing in so many ways. But, you know, I had a thicker skin by then. One of the things you have to learn when you start to blog and put your opinion out there is that people will often not agree with you. And in the early days, we had this saying that you should disagree with the idea, not the person. And we had these vigorous debates in the comment sections of people's blogs. And we really did pretty much stick to that code where we were talking about the ideas, and we would disagree like violently sometimes about an idea. But on the end of that thread, if you put us in the same room together, we'd be best friends. Do you know what I'm saying? It was not like it is today, where if you put in your feelings, like your political feelings or whatever, then you're evil because of what you, or you're greedy because of what you think, or you're not, it's ad hominem attacks that you can't really fight against because it's against your character versus against your ideas.
Yeah. Even if they're not related, I think I don't have I feel like I don't talk about really controversial stuff online very much. And, I have a video on YouTube that shows how I like to paint our house. I've painted probably every room. Well, we're in a new house. Our old house, I painted every room at least one time. One of the rooms I painted 5 times, and we lived there 5 years? So I do a lot of painting, but I don't like rollers because I make quite a mess with them. So I did this video on YouTube about how to paint with a brush. If someone else out there wants to paint with a brush, not a roller. And recently, like a month ago, the video's been up for a couple of years. A guy who's a professional painter, I guess, went on, and my video just really ticked him off. And he started leaving these comments. And it was, I mean, first of all, like the level to which he took it, he said he wanted to shoot himself in the face because my video was so dumb and I was so dumb. And I was like, we're talking about painting, right? And I kind of thought was a little funny, and I sort of engaged with him in a very lighthearted way, and he kind of just kept on like, you are the dumbest person on the planet. Are you for real? This is so dumb. You are stupid. Like direct attacks towards me, which again, I was like, hey, we're talking about painting the walls. Why are you so offended?
Like, it doesn't really matter.
And I guess, no, it really doesn't. And maybe that's why, if it had been something really close to my heart that I've been talking about, parenting or my family, that he called me dumb over, I might have cared more. But I really did think it was funny that he was so upset. And there was this huge thread, which the next day he deleted. And so, yeah, he took all his comments down. I guess, he thought about it a little more, which happens sometimes. But they do. I mean, he went straight for me. It wasn't, I don't like your technique. I disagree with your methods, which he said as well. But it was like, you are dumb.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, there's a really fine line. And I work with Civilination, which is a nonprofit. And we really, I'm on the board of that. And really that came out of these experiences I had, me joining that board, because I really felt like we need to have somebody teach us the skills that we need in order to engage online without this kind of like attack mode mentality, which really is around attacking the person. Like, so when you feel like you're never going to win the war because, hey, you like brushes and I like rollers and nothing is going to change. That's how we prefer it, right? I prefer it. You prefer it. Like, let's be friends. But the bottom line is that he really wanted you to love rollers as much as he did. And because he knew he'd never be able to get you there, he just then demeaned you in order to show other people why it's so much important to love rollers. I mean, and you can take that. I mean, I love that it's rollers and paintbrushes because it's a really great metaphor for everything, Democrat, Republican, even like the most divisive issues of our time really fit under this particular category.
We can take it all down to brushes and rollers.
It all comes down to brushes and rollers, which I really love about that example. And so that was the same here. I mean, I really had a disagreement over a methodology, over an idea. Like his idea was to turn public relations into a harlot, because public relations practitioners are just like paid sex workers. Sort of what his thesis was, if you will. And because of that, and because there are so many women in this profession, and he was a man, and I just really felt like that particular metaphor was like not the right one. It's like, let's look at public relations and criticize it, sure. But this, I realize you think it's brilliant. And I realize now that no matter what I said, he was not going to change his mind. And at the time, I really wasn't trying to change his mind. I was trying to change the minds of the other people in my profession who thought it was refreshing and interesting. I thought that I just couldn't understand that, So I was like, why are we calling this refreshing? It's not. It's demeaning to women and all that. And because of that, I kind of became a target for a long time. And he would just show up everywhere I was. So and by then Twitter was hot. So, if I showed up on Twitter, say I was demoing Twitter to an audience, because I did a lot of speaking back then too. He would pop up in the comments and saying, why are you even listening to this woman? She doesn't know what she's talking about. That kind of thing. Yeah. Which actually ended up being an object lesson for me. I used it as a way to show other people, like, you will have detractors in social media. And this is how you deal with that.
Wow. Well, how did you deal with that? I mean, what was your response once this started happening and continued to happen? Because it wasn't just like my painter guy who went after me and then sort of deleted his comments the next day. You had this for a pretty significant chunk of time, I would say. What did you do over that period of time in order to handle that?
Well, it was 2 years.
Wow.
And at least. And so, and it was come and go. I mean, there was hot moments and cold moments, but, what you do is you learn a lot about self-monitoring, where you bring yourself back. You are careful about what you say. You're careful about where you say it. All the carefree, passionate stuff that I'd done before that, I mean, it killed some of the spirit of what I was doing. I have to be really honest, because then I had to be very careful. What it did do is it did teach me exactly what we were up against. And so when I work with brands and other people, I know firsthand what they can expect. And I also know that these kinds of attacks are not going to might happen to you. They will happen. As long as you're online. I mean, it may not be to the level of, some of the brands that we've seen get attacked by different groups. But it is going to be there. I mean, you are always going to have critics online.
Well, so that was one of my next questions. Is there a way, do you have tips for avoiding some of this conflict, or do you feel like it's inevitable? Are there certain kinds of conflict you can avoid, or is it just get ready, it's coming?
Well, I mean, you certainly are going to have conflict and you can't avoid it completely, but you can minimize it. And like I said, being kind of mindful of what you're doing online is really, I think, the first part. So realize that if you put out a strong statement of opinion, that somebody's going to disagree with you. And it's okay if you want to put that opinion out there, because this is free speech and all that. And you should if you want to, but you should also be ready for somebody to disagree with you.
Yeah.
And my point is if you're not the kind of person that can hack that, if maybe that's going to be something that's just a no starter. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and they told me, listen, I just took down my Facebook page because, I put a few things up and there were some tough comments from different people, and I'm not built for that. And I just deleted my account. And I'm like, okay, well, you know yourself, right?
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person that just can't do that, it infuriates you and it's going to eat you alive, then you need to limit your time and your exposure to it. Maybe you shouldn't be putting up your opinions. Maybe you should share things or stick to other things. But even if you stick to the best topics ever, like paintbrushes, for example.
Seems like a non-conflict area.
I love it. It's like you'd think that would be no conflict whatsoever.
None at all.
If I got on and I talked about gum versus mints, you'd think there'd be no conflict in that. Guess what? There will be. So you have to realize that you have to either look at it from you've got to have some psychology in this too. Like, you have to be ready for that to happen. And, don't get mad. And if you find yourself getting angry, never react, respond.
That's great. That's a good distinction, I think, because when you're responding versus reacting, you're taking that time, even if it's a short time. Sometimes it just takes me a couple seconds. Like, I'll start typing something and I'll just pause, and that pause is all I need. Sometimes I need a day or two, but that's when it's like a bigger issue that might be personal, or someone has said something, much more close to home, I would say. I don't usually get that worked up over like a giant social issue, but if it's something that's really close to my family, or something that deals with my family or a friend or someone very personal, I might need to take more time. But even just that second, do I need to comment here? Do I need to jump in on this discussion?
Or as my husband says, count to 20.
Yeah.
And think about if you really want to respond to that.
Yeah. And, does my voice, am I going to add anything to this discussion?
Mm-hmm.
Like the other day I started getting caught up. I was having a bad day. And I feel like that's sometimes you get caught up in these things when you have a bad day. And someone had posted something about, it was a link to a breastfeeding article. And of course, I feel
yeah, that's hot button.
Breastfeeding, vaccinations, like all of these things with children are crazy hot because, parents, they have their way and they're going to do it their way. And anyway, that just is a very hot topic. And there was something about breastfeeding. I was having this really bad day and somebody's comment just ticked me off. It wasn't even that I agreed or disagreed. It was sort of one of those just really ignorant comments, because I tend to be of the school, you do what works for your family, and I've done what works for each of my kids with regards to all these parenting issues. But it was somebody who went in and kind of was just like, this is my way. And if you don't do it this way, wow, you're dumb. Is the same kind of thing, just attacking people who didn't agree with their perspective. And I don't even remember if I agreed or disagreed. And I jumped right in and hit post. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Why did I even... Nothing I said is going to add to this discussion. This person clearly has an agenda. They clearly have their mind made up about whatever it is. It added nothing. And so when then the person responded, and then more people responded, and I kept getting the notifications. And so I turned it off. I said, unfollow. So I'm not going to get any more notifications. So I'm not going to be tempted to jump back into this fray that I don't need to be involved in. But in the moment, I didn't take a second. And so I jumped into, this conflict. But I think sometimes we have so many more tools than just turning off Facebook. And that might be the right decision for somebody, or not blog. I would say for sure, if you can't handle that, don't blog. Or
yeah, that's nuclear though, to turn off your Facebook profile. But yes, blogging, you're going to have to be able to deal with some criticism, and in fact, welcome it and embrace it, because sometimes the criticism is helpful. Even though it feels a little petty sometimes. You have your grammarians, I like to call them, that come by and tell you exactly what T you didn't cross and what I you didn't dot, and, that kind of thing. And actually, I take those in a very positive way. I'll go change things. I mean, I'll be like, oh, thanks. I don't have an editor. I don't have the money or the time to do that necessarily. So yeah, it's awesome. Like, oh, great. You see something wrong? Let me know. Awesome. I'm going to fix that. Great. Thanks. So you have to really work on not being reactive. Because I do believe that that's something that's so easy for all of us to do. And there's a lot of other things too. On the other side, there's a mob mentality thing that I think also happens. Say you have a friend, somebody attacked them online, and they come into a private group or a private area or an email or chat or whatever, and they tell you, hey, this person attacked me. I don't understand it. And then all the friends go over and attack the person who attacked your friend.
Oh, yeah.
So that's also something that happens a lot, and it's really easy to get sucked into that. I mean, if you called me and told me somebody attacked you, I'd be pretty angry,
Yeah. Well, I posted going back to, my wonderful paintbrush story. I posted something on Facebook while that was happening. I was like, I'm having the most amazing fight with somebody right now about paintbrushes on YouTube. And immediately all these people started, where is it? Let me go. I'll tell them. And I was like, whoa, it's paintbrushes, people.
and you can activate your community by doing that. And that was the second really big thing that happened to me one time. Was there was a big name social media influencer who got angry about something I said, and he wrote about it on his blog, and all of the people that read his blog came to find me and hunt me down with their pitchforks. And, he didn't ask them to do that. He didn't even want them to do that, per se. You know what I'm saying? It happened. And because of that, it was a very difficult, I'd say 48 hours or so. And then after that, of course, there was a lot of people that looked at me and said, wow, that was kind of a big blow up. That was funny. I mean, a lot of people were amused by it.
Well, and I think that's the thing you have to think about as well. And, of course, on Facebook, when this happened, I said, please don't go to my YouTube channel. I don't need anyone helping me deal with this guy. It's fine. But I think when you are somebody that has influence online and you start talking about being attacked, you have to understand that your loyal followers, that will be their impulse. And you have sort of that responsibility to not let the dogs out in that way. I think you need to understand that that could happen. And you need to take that responsibility. So if you don't want a pack of your followers going over and attacking somebody who might have left a comment, then maybe you shouldn't bring it up, or
limit it to a group of people that is smaller. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like good friends, just talking. Don't want you to do anything with this.
Yeah, I just need to vent, but not putting it, which is what I wanted to do on Facebook. And really, I wasn't even venting because I did think it was actually pretty hilarious. I was getting into a fight about painting. But I do know that if there are comments, and this happened to me once, I don't generally, like I said, have a lot of hateful comments on my blog or even really critical comments, but I did have one at some point, and before I had even seen it, some of my other readers had come in and kind of responded, but they did a good job. Like, it wasn't anything I felt like I needed to go in and put out a fire or delete things, but people do, I think, when they attach to you online and have this sense of loyalty, they do want to defend you just like a friend would. But I think that is the time, if you have a small group of friends or, a small tribe or something on Facebook, you could say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or this was really hard for me. I don't need you to do anything. Or maybe you do need something done, but it's not go troll their blog and leave a bunch of angry comments. That's not the kind of thing I think that's productive or helpful for anyone, and just kind of perpetuates and keeps this online bullying kind of going on. And it does become that. It can become bullying, I think, pretty easily because we're all hiding. Like you said, there's this sense of separation, and we can hide behind our computers and just shoot mean words across and pretend like the people on the other side aren't really people because we don't see them.
Right. And something you said and all that at the beginning of that, what you were saying, and I think it's really important, is that this is really also stands up for brands too. So if you have really good relationships with your community, your brand community, the people that follow you, the people that interact with your brand, whether you're a person or you're a company, right? Those people are going to be there for you because you can't be everywhere at once either. So, I mean, there are times when I have seen more than once a brand being attacked and the people that follow them defending them in real time.
Which is a great relationship sign, I think, of a brand connecting well online, is when you have people that will kind of stand up for you because they believe in you. I think that's a good hallmark. Well, what would you say then to people who, you know, whether you're writing a blog or you're on Twitter or you are a writer with putting books up on Amazon where people leave reviews, anywhere you post something online, there's a possibility of someone criticizing you. Even if you turn off your comments, they'll find a way in if they want to. So what would be sort of your tips or suggestions for dealing with that, since you have such experience with that?
Well, okay. So first of all, if somebody does attack you or say you have a bad review or whatever, first of all, you know, take it in, read it. Yes, but as we said before, pause before you respond. So the first thing I would do is think about it for, you know, at least an hour. If it's something that's happening in real time and you have to respond to it immediately, give yourself at least a few minutes break to kind of, you know, decompress about it. I would say make a note of your response, like maybe type it up in Word or something else before you type it up in Facebook.
That's a good idea.
Or on Amazon or anywhere else. Because people that defend themselves too much online, I hate to say this, they look guilty sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, he doth protest too much kind of feeling. And so I know you may be very passionate about whatever it is that you write about. I mean, most people that are authors are writing about stuff that they're super passionate about. You know, it's something that happened to them, or it's something they know a lot about, or they may be a subject matter expert in this particular area. So there's going to be people that will challenge that. You know, they'll challenge your right to be an expert. And so you have to know that. And then you have to also understand that, I like what you said earlier, is what you're going to say going to change their mind? Probably not. Number two, is what you're going to say, how will it look to other people who are reading the exchange? So instead of focusing on the person who's commenting, you need to focus on the spectators. That makes sense to you.
It does. That's a great way of thinking about it, because I think, you know, your comment and your response is also how you're representing yourself. Mm-hmm. And so does this fall in line with how you're representing yourself? You know, if you're writing this blog post that's all about, you know, love or being peaceful, and somebody jumps in the comments and says something, and then you jump back in on top of them, it's like you sort of, that's an extreme example, but you're being at odds with who you're presenting yourself to be online. And so you have to understand that people are going to see those comments as well in that response. I think you're thought about waiting and, you know, trying to think about whether you're going to change their mind or not. And sometimes there's ways that you can diffuse situations, and sometimes you can just say, you know, and it probably depends where it is. Like if it's a blog comment and you tend to answer all your blog comments, then you don't want to just ignore the critical ones. But yeah, you may not need to defend yourself, but, you know, thanks for your thoughts. I'll try to work on that. You know, depending on what it is, there might be something that's,
or you can even say, listen, I appreciate that you're willing to leave your thoughts here. I guess we're going to probably have to agree to disagree, or something like that, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And you kind of just do that. And there are some really great tools out there, like Civilination. We wrote a book called Civility in the Digital Age that would be very helpful. And the subtitle is How Companies and People Can Triumph Over Haters, Trolls, Bullies, and Other Jerks.
That's a great title.
Anyway, it's a great book. Honestly, it's very well researched. It has like tips. It has chapters on psychology and sort of what you go through whenever you're being attacked, the stages of anger, all that. So it's a very good book for like preparing yourself for this kind of thing. Certainly, if you're a channel manager for a brand, you definitely need to read this book. If you are somebody who's going to be putting out your own personal kind of narrative or stories, I would highly recommend it as well, just because you definitely will have people that disagree with you.
That's great. And I'll put the title of the book and also the link to it in the show notes so you can go and find that, because that does sound like it would be a really great resource for anybody putting things online, I feel like, these days. And I think, you know, wouldn't it be nice if there was like a little piece of etiquette, you know, like a little PDF that could be passed around to like the entire world about how to handle oneself in comment sections. I know people have written about that before, but it's like, it would be nice if we could just sort of have something like a worldwide PSA, like to all people,
to all people
of all times who are using the internet.
If you're a blogger, a lot of times it can sap your passion for what you're doing. It has for me from time to time.
Do you feel like you ever recovered that? I mean, after having this conflict online?
Not yet. Maybe someday. I have some things I'm passionate about, so, we'll get there.
Well, good. I hope so, because that would be a really sad thing to have that taken. But I think all of us, even if I get comments that aren't critical, but just sort of, I don't know, if it's something that's not totally positive.
Dismissive.
Yeah, dismissive or anything, it's hard, and everybody deals with criticism, even if it's constructive. Like I had a good friend, offer me some constructive criticism on podcasting, and I'm new. So I'm like, I would love that. But it's also, I find myself tensing up, like getting ready to brace it, bracing myself for it. Like, okay, go tell me fast, and then stop talking. And then, let me deal with it for a minute. And I think I need to have thicker skin than that. And I do have thicker skin, but there's something about, you just need sometimes a moment to take even constructive criticism from a friend, because we're all very sensitive about the things that we care about and the things that we put out there with our heart. Of course, we're sensitive about them, even when friends bring it. And so I think dealing with people who aren't your friends and who may have things to say that are definitely critical on purpose, it's just very, very difficult. And it's not probably ever going to get easier or go away. I think we just all need to be prepared for it. Like you said, it will happen. It's just a matter of when, and taking that time to sort of process through it. And also, I think something we need to realize too is that we need to have some kind of separation between ourselves and our work. Even if you're pouring your heart into your work, that's some kind of separation, so that when someone does go and criticize, even if they say they're criticizing you, if they're criticizing what you have written or put online, there needs to be a little bit of a barrier to help you keep yourself separate.
And I agree with that. And the only other thing I would say is that with that, be also careful not to just dismiss everything as haters will hate.
Yeah.
Because I think that happens too. You get to a certain point in this where it just feels like people are criticizing you, and you look at them and you think, well, they're not my customer. Like, who are they? And I've seen it happen with many, many influencers where they get to the point where they become extremely unreceptive to any kind of criticism.
Well, I think usually there's something that we can learn from that. And that's the other thing, is if you start hearing, people always say, the common factor is you. Like, if you keep coming into conflict, whether that be online or in your personal life, what's the common factor? Is it you? And you need to ask yourself that sometimes. So I think if you're continually coming under fire for like one particular thing, then maybe you need to reevaluate that. And if you don't want to reevaluate it, then you just need to realize the conflict's going to come. Like if it's a particular political ideology or something else, and you're not changing that, then okay, but realize you're going to come under fire. But if people, keep saying that you're not being sensitive enough about a topic, then you might need to take that to heart if it's more than one person. And I think that's where the criticism can be really helpful, is for us to grow. Because when we write and when we speak, we understand what we mean, but we aren't all perfect communicators. And so we aren't always communicating all of the thoughts behind what we're saying. And so people may hear something totally different. There may be a very big disconnect that we don't see because we know in our minds what we mean, but that's not coming across. And so I think there's a really valid place for criticism, whether friends or strangers, and that we do need to take that into account in case there's a place we need to grow. And it could be an opportunity for growth.
Well, and that's really what true free speech is too, by the way. True free speech is not letting people say whatever hateful thing they want. True free speech is allowing everybody to have their say.
That's great. And I think that's something that people lose sight of a little bit, or they think that me exercising my free speech means you can't criticize it. And I'm like, no.
Well, no, me exercising my free speech means you don't have any free speech.
Yes, that's exactly what people think.
It's like, because what you say is stupid, dumb, greedy, whatever. But what I have to say, I have my free speech. You will listen. It's violent. It's violent instead of giving and open, which would be my free speech is that I will say what I think, and then you will say what you think, and we won't call each other names because we disagree.
Yeah. Well, I think for people listening, this is a great testament to the reality that you can even be criticized online for 2 straight years and come out of it and still be working online and doing all these things and not be totally jaded or deleting all of your social media. So I think you're a great testament to that. So if you're dealing with online criticism or trolls or bullies or the haters, you could think about Cami and know that you can make it out of this and come through on the other side and still have grace and poise and not be bitter about it either. 'Cause I don't see bitterness reflected in you for what happened to you online.
No, I'm not bitter. I definitely am not. I'm guarded maybe, but not bitter.
Cami, thank you so much for coming by. I'm going to leave links to your social media and the book you mentioned and your website as well in the show notes so people can come and find you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about the things that you have learned. So hopefully after that interview, you maybe feel a little bit better about dealing with your online critics. We're going to have them, and I feel like they're even worse now than they were a year ago. Maybe it's just because there's so much political stuff in the air, but everybody is like charged with this intense emotion, and people just say whatever they want to say from behind the screens of their computer, like they're invincible back there. And so in any case, I don't have a ton of trolls or critics, but everyone I get, it's so hard, even if you know better, it's so hard not to take those things personally. So I loved her common sense advice. And again, she dealt with a really extreme situation that probably most of us will not have to deal with. But we are going to have to deal with critics. Maybe trolls, maybe even haters. But, the more traffic we get, the more exposure we get, the more we're going to have to deal with negative reviews, negative comments, people plaguing us, and even reporting us as spam. And, there's all kinds of things that people do that's just kind of crazy. So you're going to have to deal with it. I hope this interview helps equip you. And I would love for you guys to go check out more from Cami. I've got links in the show notes to all of the places that you can find her and also to the really cool Civilla Nation Harassment Barometer, which is a free quarterly report that's been created from Civilla Nation, which is a group that Cami is a part of. It's a nonprofit. And every quarter they send out a report that basically kind of monitors and talks about the online harassment in the US. So it's a really cool tool. They rolled it out at South by Southwest this past year, and I have signed up and am really excited to kind of see what it has to say, what the report says about the online harassment and kind of the levels of that. So you can find links to that in the show notes as well. It's going to be createifwriting.com/059. One more time, I want to let you guys know you can also find all the free trainings while they're still available, which will not be forever, from Nick Stevenson if you go to createifwriting.com/Nick. And just to give a little bit of a plug for his course, again, I'm an affiliate for it. And so the links on that page, even though they're free resources, they are actually for affiliate things. And if you listened a couple episodes ago, I talked about how this works. So you definitely want to go back and check that out if you want to learn about how these weird free products are also affiliate links. But in any case, the free trainings are awesome. If you are at a point where free trainings are what you need, they're what you can afford, take the free trainings and run with them. He's going to talk about how to use Amazon Kindle, uploading books on there to grow your email list and to make more sales. He's going to talk about how to sell without being smarmy. He calls it sleazy, and that's okay. We like smarmy over here. I do. But it's the same thing. And I've met Nick in person. He's anything but sleazy or smarmy. He's fantastic. So the training in his actual course, if you want to buy your first 10K readers course, it's a premium course. It has a ton of value in it, and it's a little bit on the pricier side for some of you people who might be starting out or just might have a lower budget or not want to invest in a lot of courses. So here's what I always say in terms of investing, because I've made some mistakes. And last year, I actually have an episode dedicated to my $1,300 mistakes of 2015. Had to think about what year it was. Usually I don't know the day, but right now I'm thinking about the year. But yeah, my $1,300 mistakes. And one of those was a hugely expensive online course that I bought and then realized I didn't need at all, or it didn't have the information I thought it would have. It was just really disappointing. And I can say that I have looked at the back end of Nick's course and have gone through some of the video trainings, and it is worth it. It's fantastic if it's what you're looking for. And he's going to talk a lot about how to launch books. And even if you're not doing books primarily, if you're not a writer, because I have a really diverse group of you guys listening, even people trying to build another kind of platform, if books are not your end goal, books are a great means to an end. So this is a great program for entrepreneurs also who want to use Amazon and Kindle to really build that platform up, to get people back to your site, to get people on your email list. He talks about how to build a relationship with people, but also sell to them without kind of compromising that relationship, which I think is really what it's all about. If you're trying to make a business of what you're doing, is building that relationship and selling without being icky and gross and smarmy and using your people. And one of the great modules in his course is all about Facebook ads, which is something that is on my to-do list. My to-do list is rather long, but that's my kind of next up big thing to learn is how to master Facebook ads. And so I'm really excited about that section of the course. It's very businessy. Now, if you do buy through my link, and again, all of the free trainings and things like that, if you click through from creativewriting.com/Nick, you will be tagged so that you are one of my people, your email address, and also your computer or IP or however all that fancy tagging stuff works. I don't need to know. I just know it works. But if you buy through my link, here are the bonuses that you're going to get. First of all, you are going to get access to my email course, Own Your List, which is about to launch in a couple weeks, or relaunch. I launched it last year, about a year ago, and I've learned so much in the last year that I decided to relaunch it, and I'm doing videos. I'm actually in the process of recording all those now, and I could not be more thrilled. Now, my course as compared to Nick's course, totally different, but they go really well together because his is very email-based. It's all about email strategy, but it doesn't deal with the nitty-gritty kinds of things. Whereas Own Your List, my course, takes you from A to Z in email. It's basically how to set things up, how to grow, how to set up your site to grow, how to create a freebie, how to set up autoresponders, what your welcome series should look like, how you deliver your freebie, all of the really specific nitty-gritty things that can kind of drive people crazy, how to keep your list clean, how to engage with your readers, what your emails should actually look like, who they should say they're from, really specific detailed information. I also am going to talk about sales in there and how you can make money with your list. And I feel like my course plus Nick's course is really going to give you an edge in terms of your email. So if you are interested at all in his course, know that if you buy through my link, you're also going to get my course. The first 5 people to buy, and as of yet, I think there's still a couple spots. I think 4 spots are open in that. If you buy through my link, you will also get a 30-minute coaching call from me, with me, if you're one of the first 5. So get in there quick. Again, today's August 22nd as we're recording this. And I'll also give you a free copy of my book, Email Lists Made Easy for Writers and Bloggers, if you don't already have a copy. So all of that information, again, can be found at creativewriting.com/Nick. And if you know you're not in a place to buy, just take the free trainings. Take them. It's great information. His webinar especially, it's not a big sales pitch. He does a sales pitch at the end for the course. You can learn more about it. But it's not a big sales pitch. It's a ton of valuable information that you can take without buying his course and apply it right now to your platform building efforts. So definitely check that out before all that's gone. I think probably by the end of the week, all those free resources are going to be gone. So you want them. You want them now. Another special thank you, as always, to Jasmine Commerce of JasmineCommerceMusic.com for the music for the show, which I love. It always puts me in a good mood as I'm editing. And she's phenomenal. She has really great music for sale that you can find on the site. If you like the song and wish you could hear the actual whole thing, you can purchase it there at JasmineCommerceMusic.com. I'm so thankful to each and every one of you who is listening, and I hope that you will connect with me in a longer-term relationship, in a non-creepy way, of course. So you can find me on Twitter at KikiMojo, or just subscribe. You'll get my weekly emails from the Quick Fix. If I have any big special things going on, I will send emails out about those. But otherwise, I try to stay out of your hair and not too much in your inbox. So you can find that ability to subscribe at creativewriting.com/subscribe. Pretty simple, straightforward, right? And if you want to join the thriving Facebook community full of non-smarmy people like yourself, that's going to be at creativewriting.com/community. Thank you guys again for listening. Thank you for your support. I'm glad to know that you're out there. And I hope you have an inspired week.